Credits are a kind of way of describing regenerative value that's in like counterpoint to the extractive definition. And maybe if we balance the two together, we can steer our way out of this really messy climate crisis we're in the middle of. So that's not a new idea. The climate sector, the climate financial sector has been around since like the late 80s, early 90s, and it's kind of nefarious. It's got a mixed reputation. Here at the beginning of 2025, the large-scale climate financial actors that are working in the carbon offset industry, primarily Vera and Gold Standard, are not doing well. It's not to say that like we're not trying to like completely throw shade on them, but like the industry is not doing well. The traditional climate financial sector is not doing well. There's a huge layoffs, and there's been a real crisis of integrity in the space. And that is for a number of reasons that we can discuss maybe in the breakout rooms. But the slide that I'm sharing with you all is this idea that we started with an idea that carbon should be the indicator of what like a nature positive or like a planet positive intervention should be. And where we find ourselves in the beginning of 2025 is a really big bloom and a very unclear future for what we would call biodiversity markets or biodiversity credits, which have a number of challenges and a number of opportunities that we can discuss. A big one is saving a keystone species or protecting a keystone species in South America versus doing one in Central Asia, for example, is not fungible in the same way that a metric ton of carbon is. So big question on what biodiversity credits are. Regen has positioned itself as a project that is really leaning in on high integrity biodiversity crediting. And we've taken that one click further to describe how communities, land steward communities, indigenous nations, local communities are participating in that regeneration and conservation process. And we broadly would call those like biocultural credits. And if you've heard of Regen's Jaguar credit, done in collaboration with Amazon Sacred Headwaters and the Achuar Nation in the headwaters of the Amazon Basin, that's an example of a biocultural credit. We think of this idea of creating credits as a graph or a collection of different claims around nature positive impact. And it takes many different forms and many different systems to sort of create a credit. And to be clear, what I'm sharing is like Regen's approach. I'm going to walk you through the more conventional like Vera climate financial one in just a second. So I want to be clear that this is sort of like our position. That in order to define a credit, we need to use like hard scientific systems like sensor networks, DNA sampling, remote observation that can be informed with artificial intelligence models. There's a ton of conversations there, but also like participation with on-the-ground groups doing the regeneration. So our kind of position is if you want to actually make climate financial motivate like investments meaningful, they need to put wind in the sails of the local groups doing the actual regeneration, not over their head. And that's essentially been baked into our model. So Becca will get into this more, but Regen has developed a number of project pages and a really easy way for projects to begin to like anchor themselves on a blockchain and begin making claims and uploading information about the impact of their projects. And I won't go into that too much, but Regen is both like a support system and a community of practice, as well as a product stack and application-specific blockchain behind it to develop a new class of high integrity ecosystem restoration crediting schemes. It's actually more than just crediting too, but we'll say that for the very end. So if you're interested in like how to even begin thinking about this, there are such a thing as a methodology, which is a structured way of describing environmental stewardship that within the conventional climate financial sector has been described as like creating value. And these are typically done by what are called registries. And I'm showing you a collection, it's sort of like a nice doc through a group called Hedera. They're also a Web3 based climate registry that are sort of adjacent to us. I'm just using this page because it clearly shows in a nice clickable way a bunch of different methodologies. And so they oftentimes come with like an abbreviation, like a VM0044. This one is for the utilizing biochar for soil amendment and for soil health. You might have seen some more familiar ones like REDD, Red Plus. And so if you click into one of these, um, you can see the introduction around how people introduce the methodology, the types of projects, what the actions are, and it gets further and further into the details to describe what are the parameters of the methodology, how there's a workflow for its creation, involving different roles and actors, what those roles are. And so this is a really big space. Like climate impact methodologies are a really big space. And as I said, what I'm pointing you at is the conventional carbon market ones. Most of these are like the VM stands for Vera, and they're a well-established carbon registry. So you can go onto Vera's website, and I'll paste all of these links into the chat afterwards, and you can look at what these methodologies are. And in a lot of ways, there's a lot of good stuff here. And what it's not meant to say that like the conventional climate financial sector is doing it all wrong, but what we're exploring is building on an existing sort of repository of methodologies and seeing how projects that are interested in creating credits or creating value through ecosystem regeneration can reference the benchmarks and the established methodologies that have defined value to date, but bring higher levels of integrity around the cultural dimensions, their implementation, as well as using the sort of power of blockchains, their auditability, transparency, et cetera, to make them much higher integrity and hopefully more profitable. So if you're interested in just getting familiar with the crediting space, the reason I'm showing you this is because it's good to go searching and find an established credit methodology that it's in existence and familiarize yourself with it. Rather than just starting purely from zero, we want people to know what the existing landscape is and how they can position their project in relation to that. So this is a avoided deforestation methodology listed on Vera's page, and it goes through in pretty rigorous detail, like how it's been developed, etc. Not all of these are open source. Our approach is generally built in public and open source, but I'm showing you collections of methodologies that are, so I could download this one right here if I wanted to. So if it's your first time coming to the EBL or your first time just getting familiarized with the EcoCredit space, we wanted to anchor the presentation today to say, okay, there's a big field around new kinds of carbon credits, new types of biodiversity credits, new types of biocultural credits, but it's coming from a lineage that already has a lot of work there that we should build upon and we should be informed by rather than starting from zero, which is why I'm showing all these examples. So with that in mind, I'm going to pass it over to Becca, and Becca's can introduce like what Regen has built and sort of what our position is within this larger space. And I'll drop all the links into the chat now.
Thanks, Austin. And Constance has a great question about being able to attach projects to the blockchain and if you need a credit rated methodology. So we're going to go there. The short answer is no. Yeah, it's a great question. And it's really kind of where this story begins. And especially at the beginning of the year and trying to create clarity around what it is we do and why you would even come here. I think it's a nice opportunity to just tell kind of the story, like why eco credits, why regen, why doing any of this. And in my mind, or in my experience, even before I came onto regen, the first big stage of effort was building the blockchain. And the blockchain was built to be a public one. So that means that anyone can access it, anyone can use it and participate in it. And it's meant to be, it was built as a proof of stake blockchain, which means it's not a Bitcoin-like blockchain situation that's using up all of this energy. It's meant as a tool for creating a level of transparency in tracking around transactions and claims that we have not seen, that has not really existed and has been sorely needed. So in really like the first stages of Regen's existence, it was building out the big foundational piece of technology of the blockchain. And then since that has been in existence, the other big pieces that have been worked on have been Regen Registry that Tika and I work on, and then the marketplace. You all may have interacted with different pieces of that, and the EcoCredit language definitely goes in and around all of those pieces. But the public blockchain at the base of it is something that's accessible to all. The diagram, I'm going to share my screen. The diagram that I have up here is one that is kind of I feel like there's a lot going on in it. But if we kind of take this stack approach to organizing what on earth is Regen Registry and all the different pieces, as Austin was saying, it's a lot. And then the concentric circles of complexity around the voluntary carbon market and the payment for ecosystem service market, it's a lot. So we hope that we can create clarity, and no question is an ignorant one. So please do ask. I've asked it, I'm sure, at some point in my time.
Blockchain.
So the as I said, this base that was built first was Regen Ledger. That's the start of the story. And then on top of that, we have Regen Registry and Regen Marketplace. Now, Regen Marketplace is something that it's here. And this is a space for listing credits to buy and sell, but it's also a space for telling the story of your project. So you today, right now, could go on to the marketplace and create a project page like these and start to describe your project, start to describe its impact. Those tools have been developed. And those tools were developed as a way to allow everyone in the world that's trying to create ecological change and impact to express that in a way that people can tap into, that can generate some energy and support around, so that if you do move in the direction of credits, or you're looking for some other kind of support, you have this really strong way to articulate that. So there's been a ton of work in building out this marketplace space. And what you find as you click around is all these different expressions of value. You have expressions of value around soil organic carbon and around biodiversity, like habitat protection and restoration. You have expressions of value around preserving ancestral heritage. The way that the marketplace was built was to really hold all of the different ways that value can be expressed in the world by each of you here and the communities you work with, the places in the world you work with. So the marketplace was created to be flexible, but to also be very unique to ecology and to ecological value. The marketplace is built on top of the ledger. So as you start to use the marketplace to spin up project pages, you have the opportunity to utilize all of that technology as well. So there's the Regen Ledger at our base, and then we have the marketplace that docks into Regen Ledger, allows us to create narratives and to create a space for buying and selling credits. And then Regen Registry, near and dear, is it's so what I'd actually like to just first spend time with is our beautiful new website, which Tika especially spent just so much time working on. And Regen Registry is it's an ecosystem service market registry, but it's really building itself out to be so much more than that. We started really like the first kind of activities with our registry was back when we were running, these are all the credit protocols in our library, was running this credit protocol, Carbon Plus Grasslands, and developing carbon credits off of that. And through that experience, learning that there really isn't a registry that's built for really people to have more access to, that a lot of these different systems are too expensive and too time consuming and too complicated. And there are so many projects in the world that deserve a chance to try to seek out funding or to, bring their work to life. So Regen Registry grew out of that experience. And as you can see now, we have all of these different credit protocols. Here's Colshan Carbon Trust Biochar. We've got a stewardship approach, which isn't even based on carbon or outcomes, grazing and vineyard systems. We mentioned we have some watershed carbon methodology that's on. And as you can see, this like proliferation of activity and regeneration that we're trying to steward through the Regen Registry. And that looks like helping support groups that are developing methodologies, bringing their projects onto the marketplace so they can sell eco credits to fund their work. It looks a lot of different ways, and you can certainly explore more of just what we do on this website. So we've kind of like gone through like what we've done so far, and I want to be able to share this slide deck after the fact for you to explore more, because it gets more specific about like what has been kind of built at each layer. But I think what's important is just to know what our focus has been. And our focus this whole time has been on where are the big needs in the space, and how do we enable people to come to express value in a way that allows them to get what they need to fund their work, to fund their ecological work in the world, whether that's oceans or grasslands or forests. And so what we've turned into in many ways is, an offering of technical tools and an offering of services. And both of those are really evolving based off of all the people that we work with and all of you that come here. And what I think what we want to, Austin and I wanted to shift into before going into breakout groups is kind of like what we're looking towards, and even in 2025, what we're going to be building out. And the probably the most exciting thing is, so I've mentioned that you're able now today to go on and create a project page like this and include imagery and videos and document, kind of tell the story of your project. The other thing that you can do that was released last year is you can use this tool called the data stream. And the data stream is kind of part storytelling tool, part like data, real-time data tracking. And you can create these posts that can share about different project updates, or that can share documentation, monitoring reports all along the way, really like telling this full, deep story about the work that you're doing. What we're going to be building out more over this next year is looking at for different projects and organizations that are coming in. You have a lot of different people that are kind of working on your team, and you want to be able to manage these project pages and these data streams as a unit, as a group. So one of the things that we're working on building out are organizational kind of permission systems. So you can go in and have a whole team that's working on these kinds of projects together. Something else that we're working on that I have a slide to point to. So yeah, here's the data stream, is looking at different ways to innovate around verification. As we know, verification ends up being this kind of bully in the room, it feels like sometimes. And we want to look at how we can use our really strong technical tools to create a progressive verification story. So instead of just these singular verification events, we have verification taking place more over time, and by different actors that can verify different pieces of the work that's being done, and do so all transparently, so that all of a sudden, instead of everything being behind a black box, it's all very clear who is affirming that this is true, and they signed for it, and everyone can see that. So the idea of verification being a reflection of really like collective integrity, instead of, you know, kind of trusting in just one entity. There's a lot more that we're going to be building and doing, but this is to give you a taste of what we're working towards, and that all of this is deeply informed by these spaces here, and by all of the work that these projects are already doing. Austin, anything you want to add to kind of what's
Yeah.
on?
Well, I was just getting excited that there's someone here with trying to anchor 200 organic farm practices on the blockchain is in this meeting. That's cool. That's really big scale. So I was just replying in the chat. Yeah, I think I'm going to show just a few slides to kind of close out this phase, and we'll go into breakout rooms. From a lot of the conversations that have been happening at Regen, there's a lot of different ways to describe and evaluate environmental impact, and it comes under a lot of different names. A lot of people have issues with the term credits. Personally, frankly, I do too, in some ways, because I feel like it's not actually accurately depicting what's going on. But there's lots of ways that you might evaluate or like define value in ecosystem regeneration. We talk about the Jaguar credits that I mentioned earlier as like biocultural units. There's certainly a whole world of certification standards like organic or even fair trade. That's not a credit, it's a kind of certificate or a proof that someone has complied with a certain set of regulations. There's the larger world of like grants, development banks, and things like that giving money, and they want to know if you've actually had the impact that you claim you've done. So there's like a how effective was this funding to have like they're evaluating the efficacy of a funding system. And then there's this whole kind of wild and weird world of NFTs where people are using non-fungible tokens as ways to claim that they've planted a tree or do a number of things. And so, and there's also like impact reporting, broadly speaking, like that you might do within an NGO or like a sort of governmental agency. So one way that we're excited to think about this broader space is that upstream of what you would call a certificate or a funding report or an NF tree or an eco credit is the fact that what you're effectively doing is making claims around nature positive impact. And the way that we're structuring and increasingly thinking about the underlying data model that upholds Regen is that we're not just doing it purely for credits, but ways for different communities to upload and anchor on a blockchain attestations or claims around positive impact. And you can aggregate those claims into whatever flavor of asset or documentation that you want. So maybe something that could be helpful here is to get past the idea of like to credit or not to credit. But what we're building is an open source framework for people to anchor nature positive attestations on a blockchain that allows them to do any number of other things with that. And that, I think, is a kind of revolutionary idea because we're going upstream of the political differences of what is one approach or another. And we're trying to build a framework by which people can anchor verifiably true nature positive contributions onto a blockchain that then could be leveraged to do any number of other things. So a future session at the EBL, I think, will talk about the sort of data model and the framework that Regen has built to sort of underpin that. But you can think of the project pages that Becca shared as an opportunity to like anchor your project on a blockchain, begin telling that story, and assuredly begin building a relationship with potential purchasers or investors in it, because storytelling is incredibly important in this space. There's no question about it. And that this data post or the data stream is a way of beginning to add claims or like attestations around nature positive impact to your project. So we live and breathe this stuff. We probably used a bunch of jargon that wasn't really clear or is like very specific to the Web3 space or climate financial sector. we have now made this opportunity for like, I think we'll meet for probably 45 minutes. Well, it has to be 45 minutes, maybe like 30 or so, with about 10 at the end of the hour to share back. And so we'll spend the next 30 minutes or so in breakout rooms. If you want, how about this? Becca and I will split up, and other Regen staff. I don't know. Do you think we should do 2 or 3 breakout rooms?
This is a solid group, but it feels like we've got a lot of new faces. So I'd imagine that the new face room could start bigger, and then maybe more Regen folks can go there, and it could splinter more if it needed.
How about I take the new face room, and then can I ask like for Becca to be in one, and maybe Tika to be in another, and Dave and Nena, you all go where you like.
Sounds great.
Cool. Becca, can you queue up the breakout rooms? And I'm happy to answer any just off the cuff questions people have, or if the team wants to add any additional color to what we said. This is a good time. Okay.
Tika, do you mind if I put you on the spot? Do you mind to do a breakout room, or do you want to join one together with me?
I'm good either way, Becca.
Okay, let's start.
Put her on the spot.
So stay put with Austin, or head to a breakout room with me and Tika, and we can take it from there. And
Well, I thought we were doing 3 of them, with Tika having her own breakout room and you having a breakout room.
got it.
Yeah, because we have a big enough group to, let's make it intimate.
Open all rooms, recreate. I'll let you all choose. There we go. Let you choose. Okay.
So stay here if
Sorry,
you want.
so do we stay in, we just stay in the call for the new faces, right?
Correct. I'll just stay here, and you can just not go to a breakout room if you want to be a new face.
And if anybody wants to dig in deeper into like a specific concept or specific like methodology question, you have like those kinds of tactical things, then hop into either 1 or 2 with me or Tika. I'll be in 1, and Tika, you want to join 2? Cool.
Yeah, and just before everyone goes, please put your email in the chat so we can have it, and we can keep you in the loop around new stuff that's happening. It's really important that you share it. Thank you for coming, and thank you for adding your email to the chat. Please don't forget to do that. Okay, we got a pretty big. Can you raise your hand or give me a thumbs up, either with an emoji response or over video, if you're intentionally staying in this room because you want to talk about?
I didn't see the option to go to another room that I'm supposed to be leading.
Yeah, well, it's in breakout rooms, and there's room 1 and room 2. So if you go to the bottom, Tika, in your Zoom, you know,
Breakout rooms.
and
Gotcha.
you're number 2.
Thank you. Bye.
Hi.
Hello, I have a question. If we stay in this room, is for talking about what?
Intro, first time. Like, no, there's no such thing as a bad question. So if you're new to the space and you want to introduce yourself and ask questions or get familiar, this is where you should be.
Right. I'm going to one of the room.
Okay, cool, great. That means you already have. I almost feel like we could break this one up. We could sub-break this one, and Nena could do a group and I could do a group. Do you want to do that? Or actually, why don't we just stay big, and if we want to like differentiate, you can. If anyone who hasn't introduced themselves yet, please, I would love just to know where you're coming from. I see Beatrice, Greg, I don't believe we've met before. Civil Monkey, or the mainland Chinese project. Sorry, I don't know how to say your name. Please introduce yourself, anyone.
Hi, this is Beatrice from Mexico, because we are 2 Beatrice. Beatriz Zambrano is there, and I am Beatriz Barreal. And I'm from Mexico. I am the founder of Riviera Maya Sostenible. We are totally into what tourism can be as an engine for regeneration in the social, in the environmental, and financial area. And here I am representing also Guardians of Earth, which is a new platform that we have been developing And actually, we are in different levels of conversations with you, Regen, and with the founder, as long as I know, by the founder of Guardians of Earth. Guardians of Earth is not focused on credits, but what we are trying to be is an extra layers for all the projects involving credits, both for carbon or biodiversity. And we are creating this link, and the platform, the richness of the platform is that we can gather all the information for a polygon based on all the apps of citizen science. So when we have a polygon, we at the first site, we know all the observations that have been made in that polygon through those apps. And what we are willing to do is to reinforce the emotional bonding of humans with biocultural heritage through science. And here I am to learn and to offer this space as an extra value generator for all the people involved in these apps. Thank you.
Very cool. Please drop any link that you have to share in the chat so others can check it out. I first wasn't sure if you meant Polygon, like there's another Ethereum compatible blockchain called Polygon, and I wasn't sure if you meant it that way, but I see you mean it like a shapefile and a
yes, sorry for the yes, it's a digital realm. The right name should be a digital realm. Well, because the KM said it's a polygon real, but I was meaning digital realm.
As I understand, part of what you're describing falls into the category of MRV, measurements, results, and verification around observations around ecosystem health or ecosystem biocultural state within a realm or a polygon.
Yes, actually, our token is called Biocultural Unit, BCU.
Cool, cool, very adjacent. Paste some more.
I will. Yes, I will. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to introduce yourself? Okay, if that's a note, then this isn't structured. I don't have I already gave a little presentation, so I'm not going to do another one. So this is a chance for you all to ask any and all questions. And then I will engage them to the best of our ability. So we kind of just kick the ball back into the middle of the circle, and Michael's got his hand up. And Robert does too.
Yeah, I guess one question I have is regarding buying the credits. Like, how does the Regen token, does one have to buy the Regen token in order to buy the credits, or how does that work with regards to the whole?
So the words are confusing because token is used a million different ways. And people will talk about tokenizing assets, which means they're like bringing a real world asset of some kind in a conventional financial sector and bringing it on chain. The way that we use token is we're an application specific blockchain. So we're a dedicated blockchain around environmental health. And that means that blockchain must be maintained and upheld by a distributed network of what are called validators. In the world of Bitcoin, those are called miners. But because we're a much more environmentally sustainable kind of blockchain, they're called validators. And effectively, tokens, the Regen token, which has a ticker that's typically a $sign within the word Regen written in all caps after it, is the token necessary to maintain and run our blockchain. So a credit is like a unique digital asset that's being instanced by people following a methodology, uploading it to the chain, etc. And that's its own entity, while tokens are effectively what allow a distributed validator network to run the blockchain. And you can think of the token like equity in the Regen protocol. So if blockchains run as a decentralized governance system, we're not a conventional company. We're a series of contracts and algorithms that a big group of people collectively vote on how they should be upheld, how they should be evolved, and that's kind of the nature of Web3. And so governance power and like voice in the evolution and the adaptation of Regen as a protocol is directly correlated to how many tokens you hold. So the tokens have a market value, and the more successful Regen as a protocol is, the more that token has value. So it's like equity in that sense, like owning equity in a company. And it's also the ability to govern and participate directly in the sort of evolution of what the blockchain is used for.
Okay.
But to also add, if you want to purchase directly the credits, there are two ways. You need to have a Kepler wallet still to be able to buy directly, but you can also contact the sales team and they will help you buy credits if you're not familiar with using crypto wallets. So both ways are available. We have like a concierge service that you can opt in for, or you can buy directly using cryptocurrencies by signing in through your wallet. So both ways are possible.
And what sort of cryptocurrencies do you use to buy the credits?
I believe it's USDC.
Well, you can buy a credit if you do it through a concierge. It's anything that you like. I mean, it can be what effectively we're talking about is like on-ramping, like bringing money or identity from the conventional space into the Web3 environment. So the concierge can help with that. We also partner with another organization called Cato, which is effectively a Stripe integration. So you can purchase credits with a Visa card currently on our website. Or if you have an existing crypto wallet or treasury, we have the service called Cato, Kado, which will allow you to it basically automates a centralized exchange rule for you. So you can take a Visa card and then purchase any number of whatever tokens that you want. But we primarily designed the credit purchasing process to completely abstract away the Web3 part and just use Stripe. So it's an ACH payment can do it.
Okay. And then, and I'm just wondering how this works because we've got let's say we've got the funding source for buy the credits and we've got the projects to put the money into, and we just need to issue the credits. Is there, how would that work? So we've got the funding from the transport industry and we want to put it into a project, but we want to be able to issue the credits to the companies who are buying the credits, who are giving the money to us.
Right. So the way typically, this works with Vera and conventional climate financial sectors as well. Credits aren't issued at the time of sale. Credits are issued like their inventory on a shelf that a registry keeps tabs on. So as soon as the methodology has verifiably been complied with, aka you've done the regeneration, it's been verified through a VVB or through whatever process you're using to verify it, credits are issued and they sit on the blockchain in an issued state. When a person purchases the credits, we are transferring, well, in one sense, we're changing the state of the credits to be retired so that they're off, but the credits can be moved to the other person's wallet. So they're already issued. If you purchase them, then those credits can be moved over to a decentralized wallet, and then their state, the metadata of those credits reflects who owns them. By the nature of it being a Web3 entity, if a person purchases them, they could be automatically retired, which means that it can't be resold again, or they could just be changed owners, and then people could sell them again if they wanted to, in more in the realm of what DeFi does, like KlimaDAO and other entities do that kind of stuff. So all of that is programmable, but the credits are already issued, and what changes is the ownership address in the metadata. And if you want to say you're doing a carbon offset, then you would purchase those credits and then they're technically retired, which means they can't be resold again because you can't claim that you've offset carbon, but then sell the asset a second time. That's not allowed.
Okay. I guess I'm just trying to figure out how we're going to do this because we are going to, get companies to invest into agroforestry projects, and down the line we want to give them the credits once we get them verified. So we're not gonna, all right, so in that scenario, we wouldn't be selling them, we'd just be issuing them. So how would that work?
Well, if, like, there's lots of flavors of this. So like, in a conventional sense of like, say you're working with a corporate actor that wants to make right on their sustainable development goal commitments. Say they have sustainability commitments. And so as part of that, they're going to offset carbon. Then you could contact Regen and we can talk through what existing carbon sequestration credits exist on our registry, of which there are several of them. And you can talk about the purchase of them and the retiring of them.
But we want the funds to go in. But we want the funds to go into our projects. Yeah.
So if you're saying like you want to like acquire the credits as an asset and use them
I'm saying, let's say for example, a company gives us $1 million to put into an agroforestry system. But then we have some contract with them that we would give them all the credits from that agroforestry system that they've invested into. But obviously we're not getting, it's more on the back end that the credits are getting issued. So they've already paid for the project and we would just be giving them the credits like on the back end.
Yeah, that's called forward contracting or pre-financing, which means that you receive the money before even the credits are being minted, in trust that you will follow the course and you would produce that credits. So there's some kind of a contractual agreement going on there. And once the credits go live, they automatically get transferred to their blockchain address. For example, if you're using Regen, and they can do whatever they want with it. They can retire it, they can sell it. They are the primary owners of the credit. And if you have it in your contract that as soon as it gets transferred to them, it has to be automatically retired, then that's the case. So it really depends on the contract that you have. But the financing part is known as pre-financing, and that's also becoming quite popular and necessary to lift projects off the ground and sort of see them succeed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, forward contracting is the key word that I think is about the question you're asking. We offer a pre-financed category to allow investors to fund a project to get off the ground, understanding that within a certain timeline, credits will be issued, and those credits are by default owned by the people who bought the forward contracted credits.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have to run, but it's nice to chat to you guys. I'm going to chat with Tika just now, but thank you for all the information.
Oh, yeah, great. Thanks for coming around. Take it easy.
Cool. Cheers to you guys.
I have a question. Is this simplest?
And then we'll do Evan. No, you go
Sorry,
ahead.
sorry. Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I need to leave soon as well. Is the simplest of all the questions. Could you give us an overview? Like, it's really my first time here, and I gone through the Regen webpage, but and I have the idea that we start by clicking the create project, and I actually did, and it seemed that it was very easy to put information there, but I know it doesn't stop there, because then I saw several documents of things that we have to fill and we have to create a project, but then I don't have a clear idea of what is step 1, step 2, and step 3 from creating the project to getting verified, to get financed. If you could give us sort of a short overview, it would be fantastic to navigate the webpage better.
Nana, do you want to answer that? And I'm going to reply to something in there.
So I think what you're addressing is like many different aspects of actually creating an eco-credit. So a project page, consider it like a data management software for the evidence and the impact and the verification process that you're creating. And that process is pretty much simple. So it doesn't even have to be that you're interested in creating a credit, right? It could just be that you want to share with the world what kind of impact that you are creating without having the agenda of making a financial product out of it. So that part is pretty simple, and whatever is written, it basically works as a WordPress website that you can create. Now there's a second part that if you are interested in creating an eco credit or a carbon credit or something like that, then there is a whole methodology that has to get deployed. And building that has to be done with certain kind of scientific rigor. And this is what we were sharing at the beginning, that there are already existing methodology databases which are open source, where you can see if there is something applicable to your project. So you don't have to build from scratch, but you can just adopt it because it's already been vetted by many peers in the sector. So that part becomes easier like that. And then when it comes about financing, this is a whole different marketing and business development question, right? So it's about like the project itself, the project developer itself. Do you come with already existing networks that might be interested in buying that credit? Do you want it to be pre-financed, and do you have methods through which it can be pre-financed and how that can be integrated? So that's a different question regarding business development that requires responsibility also from the project developer that is coming and building it on chain. And verification, basically you can use the verification part is Regen Registry has a program in itself that basically acts as a verifier and sees whether the data that you're providing is sufficient or not, and going through that process and having a consultant that can help you directly with the projects and the scientific parts of it, that's a paid service that Regen Registry offers. Although to be listed on Regen, you don't have to necessarily go through that. You can just use the blockchain and do it independently. But if you need support, there is a paid service that you can opt in for. And for that, there are several contracts. And then, of course, the registry team, if you're interested in something like that, can walk you through that more on what are the different services, what are the different rates, and how you can access them.
So slight amendment to that, which is generally correct. The role of the verifier, oftentimes referred to as a VVB, a validation and verification body, is commonly the most expensive and also opaque and challenging actor within the larger field to navigate. The Regen Registry is technically a registry, and they're not a verifier, although there is a level of auditing the registry agent role in creating a credit. Means that a representative from the registry is going to look through a methodology and ensure that the monitoring and reports that are submitted are thorough, and everything that's been laid out in the methodology is included in the report that's being made. That's slightly different than a verifier, which is like oftentimes a standard, like a certified company that goes and takes their own measurements, does their own due diligence to ensure that the claims are accurate. So there's sort of two dimensions of it. One of them is the registry typically checks for thoroughness. Is this complete? Well, whereas a verifier checks for truthfulness. Is this accurate? And that currently our registry, as we're getting up and running, has done a lot of the role of verification. And so what Nina is saying is like true in many ways, but going forward, the verifier is a particular role. And in particular, we're trying to actually remove the verifier by using a better, open, transparent, and auditable system for anchoring claims about environmental impact that are verified and signed by other actors, such that a large, expensive verification institution isn't required anymore. That's one of the value propositions of blockchains, is to use distributed trust models to allow verification of data in a way that historically VVBs have done. But that's like a big rock to roll up the hill. And that's kind of the big end game here, is to leverage distributed networks to get past a centralized opaque verification authority model.
Thank you.
But we're not claiming that we've figured that out yet. Rather than this system of an open framework for the submission of attestations around environmental impact for a project is assuredly the beginning ingredients to develop a model for distributed verification. Evan, you had your hand up.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Me? You said Evan?
Well, yes, I saw you raise your hand at the same time as Jabal did, so I thought.
Oh, sure. Yeah. 2 questions. The first, the group I am are interested in looking at different methods of raising funding for regenerating soil. The problem is they're all, middle-aged and not super tech literate. They say that sounds super cool, but the barrier to entry is kind of high. I was wondering if someone from Regen, either foundation or registry, might be willing to come to one of our meetings and give a short rundown. Shouldn't be more than 15 minutes or half an hour. Like, they believe me when I explain this to them, but someone coming from the organization, is that a service that you guys offer or would be interested in?
Potentially. The volume of projects that are beginning to move through Regen Registry and the Regen Ledger is big enough that we don't have the person power to individually interface with each group. That's kind of why we set up this EBL. The one version is if you could get one or two of them who are influential in your group to come to the next one of these and hang out in this breakout room, I will have like this, that I can promise we have the bandwidth for. And so that would be my suggestion. Separate from that, we are doing a lot of work in 2025 to better label, document, and make tagged all the videos and existing focus sessions we've had to date, so that your team could go on YouTube and educate themselves pretty quickly by watching other stuff and being able to kind of know which videos to watch, because we're better identifying what's being communicated in each video, which is an initiative that we're doing. But Regen Network has a YouTube channel.
Yep.
And if you Google it, you can find it, and there's a lot of documentation that's already there.
Amazing. And I assume the links for these calls will be on the calendar that you guys put out?
So that's why we're asking for people. Currently, the links for these calls are all on the Regen Network YouTube.
Okay, gotcha.
So, but that's a good prompt. And what we're switching to is a Luma invite system. Sure. So it's a little bit more like a web page than just like a calendar invite. So we're switching over to a more formalized invite system. And in that case, we could put a lot more links, like links to previous sessions videos, which makes a ton of sense to have on there.
Amazing. Thank you. And yeah, there are two particular, let's say, people in the organization who would be interested in that. So I'll pass on the YouTube at the fundraising committee meeting this evening, and we'll see if we can get that ball rolling. Question number 2, this fundraising app and impact storytelling app I've been working on since Barichara. We're getting closer to done, I promise. I'm curious, are you guys still interested in potentially accepting donations through the thing I'm building?
Yeah, I recall our conversation, and we are an ecosystem, not like a single-sided corporate project, I don't know, corporate entity. So we have a very fundamental incentive to be interoperable and compatible with other platforms and projects that people have built. So our spirit is fundamentally, yes. I can't say just off the cuff without talking more details, what that would look like. But the beauty of working in this way is that we're allowing other entities to plug in and be cross-compatible. So I feel like that's probably best suited for the R&D team, and particularly Dave Forston, who was I think in one of the other breakout rooms. So if you already know him, he would be a good person to talk to, because he kind of air traffic controls a lot of that.
Amazing. Yeah, we met in Dubai. He put on a really cool event. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, totally.
Catch you later. I'm gonna hop off.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.
Beatrice Zambrano, can I ask you to introduce yourself? I see you diligently listening and engaging, so I'm curious. I don't believe we've ever met. Beatrice, I'm saying hi to you.
It's for you, Beatrice Zambrano.
The other Zambrano. It's okay, you're muted. Thank you, Beatrice. Hi.
Hi, I am from Mexico as well, and I'm working with Ruben, the one that recently left the room, and we are developing a project for the coastal region of Mexico, Jalisco, and we're now trying to build our framework to make some projects, some reforestation, forestal management to conserve a large area, the coastal Jalisco, and yeah, and we're just looking for the most accurate methodology and a way to create our framework, and also to get some funding to so we can make this project as more approachable for other local people to join, and avoid them to make some changes in their land to get it into agriculture activities, and instead to keep on conserve the area through cacao plantations, coffee plantations, or other trees that could help them to be more productive.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So this builds a little bit. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
This what you prompted, and it's come up a couple of times, was also mentioned by Michael, the guy from South Africa, around this idea of credits versus pre-financed credits, and it didn't come up in the presentation that Rebecca gave, but in our marketplace, we have a setting that you can change between existing credits or pre-finance credits. And effectively, the pre-finance credit is trying to sell initial credits that will support the development and implementation of the project. So closing the funding gap so that resourcing can be provided up front rather than after all of the work has been done is extremely important. And that shows up in like different farmer and agricultural scenarios a lot, like CSA, community supported agricultures, are ways for communities to support the farmer before they start to plant the growing season so that they have resources to do their job. And so I encourage you to check out the pre-finance section in the Regen Marketplace to gain some familiarity with the distinction between credit purchasing schemes to help support a large volume of credits to be made, versus projects where the credits have already been produced, the work has already been done, and now they're for sale. There's a distinction there. And so we're really actively trying to find ways to support the financing of the project at its onset, rather than after all the work is done.
Okay, thank you very much. And Happy New Year for everyone.
So y'all's group came back in and joined our group, Tika and Dave. How was it?
It was great. Yeah. Fun to hear Josh's updates and chat with Burke and find out about what he's doing in Turkey, and came up with some thoughts around just gathering comments and feedback from folks who are working to help inform our design. So yeah, that was great.
Nice. I just broadcasted a message to the other group that they can join back. Greg, I see that your microphone is on, and I'm getting a nice just washing of maybe some of the air conditioning in the room or the wind that you're in right now. But I don't believe I've heard you. I don't believe we've met, so maybe you can introduce yourself if you care to.
Yeah, I'm from South Africa, working with Michael on the Unitree. But it's one side of it. Yeah, and the noise you can hear in the background is a good high-felt storm coming in, which is great.
Oh, nice. What kind of storm?
High-felt. It's we have these thunderstorms that come in late afternoon, which is great.
Cool.
Anyway, one of the key projects we're doing at the moment is I'm with Project Bio. We get involved in bioregional restoration. So got a key project starting up here in South Africa one of our provinces doing restoration, what they call rewilding Mpumalanga, clearing alien vegetation, and using that for biochar creation, biochar development. And then looking, so the kind of, I think that's that pre-financing that I think is going to be a good option. So we're looking at hemp carbon standard, but that brings a whole lot of rigor to it. And we're probably looking for better options for, for crediting those practices. But it's, and I think, when we also, what you're looking for is additionality. We do, a lot of it assists with the community development, the upliftment of rural communities. So, and that because they're particularly participating in that at the moment. So just trying to find, I think it is probably just it's a methodology, but it's also its approach that kind of is, conducive to these broad scale kind of rewilding initiatives, that, and there's, and just commercializing them as best you can, to support the work. So it's more about this, it's like basically a non-profit. So but it's just, as you say, to support the initiatives themselves. So that's really trying to, just establish that practice there. So Unitree was one of the ways, but it runs in parallel to what we're doing currently. And then also the other one we're doing was using hemp as an innovation, but that's quite unique, and trying to find methodologies to support, the sequestering of carbon using hemp is only one methodology I know at the moment that does that,
So it's an interesting moment here. I don't believe he's still on the call. Gabe Travis from Colshan Carbon Trust has here he is, has experience adapting a biochar methodology and interacting with Regen for it. And Greg and Gabe, you two should talk and share experiences. I feel like that would be a lot of insights and learnings that Colshan's been through, could be informative to Project Biome, as I see in your name. So you two should definitely connect. And Burke Soto, hi Burke, in a little bit. And the Earthist team have been very active in researching carbon sequestration potential of hemp. So the two of the methodologies you just outlined, two other people on the call have a lot of invested time in. So I really encourage Greg for you to meet Burke and Gabe, because there could be some real synergy there.
You say Bert, eh? Burke. Okay, Burke's one.
Yeah.
I was trying to get the name. From which organization?
I'll speak on his behalf. Earthist. Burke, if you want to add any info in the chat so that you two can connect. Gabe, maybe you can add some info in the chat too, so Greg can connect with y'all.
Thanks,
So
Gabe.
I just wanted to understand from your side, Austin, just how far what have you guys done in that regard?
So what I would say we have done is supported a number of different project developers to explore the adaptation of methodologies around soil remediation, carbon sequestration related to biochar and temp. So I'm not currently a project developer. Regen Foundation is not currently a project developer doing landscape regeneration. I would love to be. I'm working on that. So, but that's not quite there yet. So what I can do is connect you to Burke and Gabe, and there's a number of others that have insight into that. I run focusing on this.
And they are project developers, eh?
Colshan Carbon Trust and Earthist are both project developers, yes.
Before we do any share outs, I'm going to pull a mom question. And is it okay if I take a screenshot of everyone here so we can just this is a really happy group. If anyone doesn't mind coming off of video for a second, or back on video, or just gonna, is that good with everybody? If anybody's not good with that. All right, here we go. Smile if you want. Thanks, everybody.
Nice.
So how was main room? How are you guys doing?
It's good. Well, a number of the questions related to, well, we have a lot of new project developers on this call, which is really exciting to see. Like shout out to the Mexico contingency on this call in particular. There's a critical mass of projects in region related in Mexico. That's super exciting. So that's a kind of like high level. You spoke quite a bit about the distinction between forward contracting, pre-financing as ways to explore being able to support projects earlier on in the process, or allowing entities to pre-finance, pre-purchase credits, and then basically automatically own or retire those credits upon issuance. And so I made the distinction that there's a pre-financing tab on the marketplace that folks could educate themselves about. And yeah, and then Evan and Beatrice both shared projects that they're working on that are sort of compatible with Regen, the biocultural unit that Beatrice mentioned, which has come up on our radar a couple of times, that project.
Guardians of
Earth?
Yeah.
Guardians of Earth, correct. Yeah, I met one of your colleagues just a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, how about you?
We had a great agenda rocking in our group. So Arturo, Gabe, Gimo, Alejandra, we're creating some clarity around like the methodology credit class question, especially now because on the registry website, we've got credit protocol, because we love to over-engineer things sometimes. So we're talking about just the efforts to simplify language, simplify process, create some clarity there. That I think was helpful just to walk through. Arturo was asking about governance. And so we're walking through the different governance tiers and where that gets expressed, which I think is, again, kind of a call to create clarity around like the governance story. Yeah, just like a lot of nice conversation around that. And I would really invite folks to, if you've connected here, to lean on the Hilo group as an extension of this space in between these EBL calls, to connect with others, to connect with me, connect with Austin, ask questions. And that can be like technical, tactical questions. It can be anything. Yeah, and I feel like that's also a space too where, aside from, I think earlier I had shared like a suggestion box, if you have things that you would like to create a bigger discussion around in future EBLs, but you can also drop things there. Last like thoughts, things that you'd love to see next time, burning questions that didn't get answered. Be sure to drop emails. So as I noted in the chat at different moments, we are going to be switching our process for joining this call to use Luma, which is more of a registration process. It's much cleaner. We'd been experimenting last year with just using the community calendar through Google, but we'd love to create something a little more enduring. So if you want to be included, you don't have to do any extra steps in the Luma group for EcoCredit Builder Lab. Drop your email. Happy to do that for you. And we'll continue to like send out announcements about this group in the future. Feel free to invite other folks. All are welcome.
I'll say that the scope of what we're discussing and the challenge and the opportunity here is vast. And I think everyone on this call recognizes that. And so it's not like this big systemic change is going to happen overnight. It's going to happen incrementally with people building unity and alignment around trying to develop a better way. And so I'm going to thank you all in advance for your patience with the Regen team as we do the best that we can to try to deliver good technical social support for what we're doing, but it's certainly not perfect and we're doing our best. So yeah, thank you all for like being here and showing up, and like we're very much in the process of developing this and making sense of what's the best way to approach it, and we're doing that with you all. So thank you for coming. This is awesome. Please come back in future sessions and we'll have dedicated things. Put your email in the chat.
Thanks, everybody.
Much love. Bye.
Thanks, Austin. Thanks, Becca. Nice to
Bye,
see you guys.
Yeah, you
Bye-bye.
too, Dave.
Take care.
Regen person, does someone want to make sure we grab the stuff from the chat before?
I just saved it. I got this.
Save the chat.
Save the chat. And recorded it. I might have missed the beginning moments of yours. You know, when like there's an AI bot that's recording, it already says it's recording, so you think that you may have already hit it. But anyways, awesome. Well, thanks everybody.
I have to hop to another thing, but Gmo, it's nice to see you, or to see your avatar and see your beautiful face just for a second. Looking forward to jamming, and pleasure to meet you, Beatrice. Take care.